So we were probably the first Pakistanis to join Cisco at that time in 1991. We used to be sitting at my media room. We would have parathas and chais every Sunday and spend the whole day working on, the solution.
This is when you had left Cisco just to do this?
And we decided to sell the company and see if we can get more funding and backing from a larger company to make the technology successful. It was
a substantial acquisition as well. It's like 700,
yeah, it was $610 million. Yeah, it was substantial. Yeah.
Alkira has been acquired by Lumen, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And how did that decision come about?
So, whenever you sell the company, it's a difficult decision. Don't ever be afraid of doing anything or taking a step, because the first step that you take, after that, you end up learning more.
Amir, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for taking the time to be part of the podcast as well. I recently became aware of your journey. I've heard of Viptela back in the day from an uncle who works in the networking space,
industry. Okay.
in this industry. But I was so happy that you were able to take some time and have this chat. The point of this podcast is to provide, say, inspiration and some kind of like, I want to say a pathway to like a lot of Pakistani entrepreneurs who aspire to become, to build big things or say build global products. So yeah, so I would love to start with your journey. You were born and raised in Pakistan, right?
I was born and raised in Pakistan. I think I was born in Chaklala, but near Islamabad. But my dad was in the Air Force.
Okay, nice.
And and then most of my life I lived in Lahore, in Model Town, Lahore.
Okay.
Early days. I've spent more time here now. I was 21 when I came here in 1984, so
okay,
long time ago.
So what made you come here?
To study.
To study, and where did you go? Where did you go to school?
I started off from University of Mississippi. My journey is interesting.
Okay.
And then I did electrical engineering, and then went on to University of Colorado. Did masters in computer engineering. But in Pakistan, I used to mostly play as a child outside, any sport, and then landed on squash. Played squash for a long time, but you could find me playing field hockey, cricket, soccer, anything, athletics.
But you had this particular love for squash, right? Like when I was researching you, it came up.
As a matter of fact, I started playing squash. Of course, we were inspired by, all the good players in
squash
Pakistan.
Players ever. Yeah.
But we had a club come up in Model Town near our house. So my elder brother used to play, and that's how I got introduced to the squash. And I remember the first time I went to play squash, they thought I was a good player because I was, younger brother of my elder brother who's pretty good. And I walk into the courts and this guy beats me, 9-0. Okay. And they're like, get him out of here. So then I said, that's interesting. I've never been this bad in any sport. So I would go maybe play 3-4 hours a day, just hitting the ball, and up until I became, pretty much the top guy in that club. So it's called dedication, right? So it's funny how competitive from the beginning in sports. All my brothers and my dad were, So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
So then when you came here, did you play any sports in college?
We continued playing, no, not in the college, but we continued playing squash and squash tournaments.
Okay.
Locally in different states, right? So when we were in Colorado, my younger brother came over. He was in the Punjab team.
Oh, wow, okay.
Under 16. And he came here, became a top player in the U.S. amateurs. So we used to play a lot of tournaments together. And as a matter of fact, in California, we had a team. So there's a league, Northern California League. And we won it, I think, 7 times in a row. So probably the oldest team, but it was fun.
Wow. So then after your undergrad, you went for your master's too?
Yeah, master's at the University of Colorado in Boulder. Yeah.
And then what did you do after that?
So looking for a job as usual when you come to the US.
Yeah.
You're a student, you do your master's, and now you have to find a job because you want to get the green card. And so I did practical training, something called practical training, right? Which before you finish the degree at that time.
Yeah.
And after you finish the degree, you could do 1 year on each side. And so one of my friends was working at Ford Motor Company in Dearborn, Michigan.
Okay.
And I said, Qureshi Saab, do you have a job? And he said, yes, we are looking for somebody. And I said, okay, get me a job. So he introduced me to his bosses, and I interviewed and got in. So I was working as a contractor for Ford Motor Company, and did that for I think a few months, and then Cisco picked me up in California. Because I was deploying Cisco.
What were you doing at Ford Motor Company?
So I was deploying Cisco.
Oh, you're deploying
Cisco was just coming up.
Okay,
right? And so at that time, I guess Cisco was looking for experts, and there were no experts because there was no internet, there was no technology like that existed, and Cisco was the first one. And so they liked what we were doing. And so I came over, and my friend Imran Qureshi, he also joined me afterwards, right? So we were probably the first Pakistanis to join Cisco at that time in 1991. You know?
Yeah.
So, and then the rest is history, because Cisco became extremely successful, as you know.
Of course.
And they built what we call the infrastructure for the internet, right? Something called routers and switches, and they became one of the most valuable companies in the valley. So
the world
it was exciting.
At one point, yeah.
Probably at one point, it was the highest valuation.
Yeah,
I think they were the first ones heading towards $1 trillion valuation, but didn't happen. But now we have $5 trillion companies like Nvidia, right? So it's pretty amazing. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
So how long did you spend at Cisco, and your first startup was Viptela, right?
Yeah. So I worked for companies like Cisco. We were relatively successful in those companies, and I stayed there 5.5 years at the beginning.
Okay.
I started off my career from customer support, went on to becoming a consulting engineer, which was, consulting with all the major customers across the globe on how to deploy Cisco's technology. Mind you, there was no internet at that time. Yeah. Right. So internet started happening towards the kind of 95, when UUNet and some of these companies came along. And so it was pre-internet. Universities used to be connected, and then we were deploying these boxes called switches and routers to resolve, to create solutions for different types of technologies like IBM. There was something called Token Ring SNA, and there used to be like 16 protocol suites before we landed onto TCP/IP, which became the basics of the internet, right? And that's where the internet revolution started happening. I don't know if you remember, there was a company called AOL where you had dial-up connections.
I remember AOL.
Modem would go, for a long time.
I remember dial-up. I'm old enough to remember dial-up, right. But I experienced internet in Pakistan. Actually, I was
really?
I was born and raised in Hyderabad, which is a small city close to Karachi. And we got internet in like 98. I want to say
98.
Yeah, 98, 99. Okay. That's when and it was all dial-up.
Yeah, it's and Cisco became extremely successful, and I was part of Cisco and a few other networking companies.
So you left Cisco and you joined
startups. Yeah,
startups. Okay,
so I went to 3 different startups. One was called Xylan, which was acquired by IBM. There was another company called Rapid City Communications, which was acquired by Bay Networks, and then Procket Networks, which was acquired by Cisco.
So what was your thinking? Because I feel like typically when an immigrant comes to a new country, they want a stable, safe job at a huge company, which is not going anywhere. That jump from that Cisco to a startup is actually scary, right?
I mean, if you really think about it, when I joined Cisco, there were about 300 people, right? Okay. So it was kind of like a startup. So and then I somehow had the knack for trying out different things, and was always a risk taker.
Okay.
And so I thought it would be good to go try out some startups because I wanted to do something on my own as well. But I kept getting good opportunities in other startups and companies. So I started my own company later on in my career. But that was
So after you were part of 3 startups, and I think all 3 of them got acquired, right?
Yeah.
So then that's when you decided to start your own?
No. I went back to Cisco, before the acquisition of the last company. It was called Procket. It was in, building high-end routers.
Okay.
And I was very early on there, and Cisco, gave me an opportunity that I couldn't refuse. So I went back to Cisco that was in, I think, 2002.
Okay.
So, and then I stayed there another 5 years. So first time I stayed there 5 years, and then again 5 years more.
And then, so take me through your decision to start Viptela. How did that come about? What problem did you see?
Yeah. So I was always, I wanted to do my own company, and was thinking about ideas. And there's a gentleman named Khalid Raza.
Okay.
He was also thinking about some ideas. So we got together. He wanted to do a startup in wide area networking. And I talked to him, and we decided that was a good opportunity, So we got together and started something related to Viptela, pre-Viptela, and that didn't work out. So we decided to close that company. But then Viptela is something that me and my brother, and there was one more gentleman, so my brother's Atif Khan. He's my co-founder at Alkira, and there was another gentleman named Ramesh Prabhakaran.
Okay.
Right. Very nice guy. And so we started working on it, and Khalid again joined us later on. So, that was the founding team for Viptela. And, we built something very substantial. We designed it. We used to be sitting at my house in I call it the media room. We would have parathas and chais every Sunday and spend the whole day working on, the solution.
This is when you had left Cisco just to do this? Oh, yeah, of course.
I had left Juniper at that time, because after Cisco, I went to Juniper. And then I decided to take the time off to work on this.
Yeah.
While everybody else was still working. So we would have to work over the weekends, and we architected the solution. And then we're having a difficult time raising money. It took us a while to, raise the money, because people thought that, hey, Cisco is there, other companies are there who are building a similar solution, and why would your solution take off? And we kept trying to, tell them that, no, this is a very viable solution. We understand the market. At that time, the networking market was not as sexy for people, right?
Yeah.
So they were funding application companies more.
This is 2007?
This is 2011, right? So
this is when everyone was funding SaaS.
And other things, SaaS, and all the other companies were coming up. So people were more interested in funding those.
Yeah.
But we were pretty lucky that after a year and a half of struggle, we ran into a gentleman at Sequoia Capital, which is,
of course,
the premier venture capital firm in the Bay Area. And he had worked in the networking industry.
Okay.
So he got it, right?
Who was this?
Mike Gogan.
Okay,
and he was a general partner at Sequoia, and had funded a few networking companies before, as well as worked in a few networking companies himself, like Synoptics and all. So he got it, and he had a tendency of going to the customers and asking them that, hey, are there any exciting companies out there that I should be looking at?
Uh-huh.
So a few people in the Wall Street, banks and some financial companies knew us, and they recommended him to come look for us.
So how did you get your first customer with Viptela? Like, I think that's probably the hardest thing to do, especially when you're doing, this is kind of like enterprise sales, right?
Yeah. So fortunately, we had been working in the industry for a long time.
Okay, so
and Khalid had some friends at JPMC. So we started doing some consulting work for them. And that's where, we also vetted out our idea. And they thought it was a good idea, right? So I think Mike also met with them and found out from them that, hey, this is a good team. Why don't you go and talk to these guys? So when we met with Mike first time, he said that, hey, I've been looking for you guys. So we got funded very quickly. We were very fortunate. Sequoia wrote us the first check, and we were so happy.
Of course. And that's great validation, right? Because Sequoia is probably the leading one in the world, right? Even at that point, it has always been.
Yeah. And our Series A and Series B were all, 100% Sequoia. So,
really? Both rounds of 100% Sequoia?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so they were really excited about our team, and they were very kind to us. Yeah.
And then how did the acquisition to Cisco happen? Like what led to that? Yeah.
So we worked on this solution, which was, very interesting. We created a category called software-defined wide area networking.
Yeah, WAN. Yeah.
And validated with the customers, met with many other customers, and customers started deploying our solution. They loved it. Our first customer was Gap, at a relatively large scale. Cisco had not lost a sale in this particular area for a long time. So we deployed about, I think, if I correctly remember, 1,100 routers.
Okay.
At Cisco. These were the branch routers, right? So some relatively smaller boxes. So think of it as every store had a box or two boxes, and then that was successful. And then we ran into PNC Bank, and at that time they were quite interested. So they ended up deploying, about 2,500. No, as a matter of fact, over 5,500 routers. Okay. And Cisco had never seen that kind of competition in that particular niche of the networking industry. And so they were like, what's going on? So the solution was great. We really enjoyed our time there. And it was fun to get such big customers and their validation. And so we started working with more and more customers and started acquiring more customers. And then Cisco finally came and decided to acquire us.
These conversations are brought to you by QistBazaar. QistBazaar is one of the leading BNPL platforms in Pakistan. QistBazaar essentially आपको provide करता है different products on easy installments. Whether you are a small business or whether you're an individual. अगर आपको अपने घर के लिए AC चाहिए, अपने घर के लिए फ्रिज चाहिए, अपने business के लिए बाइक्स चाहिए, अपने employees के लिए लैपटॉप चाहिए, phones चाहिए, office के लिए solar चाहिए, घर के लिए solar चाहिए, QistBazaar has a solution for you. Go on to QistBazaar.pk and find the right solution for yourself.
But why not like compete with them and like say go for an IPO route?
So it depends, right? On many factors.
Of course.
And, as you know, in a startup, there are team dynamics, there, investor, I guess, appetite. There's so many different things. And because we are competing with the largest companies head on, a lot of the team members decided that, it would be better off to just sell the company. And we decided to sell the company and see if we can get more funding and backing from a larger company to make the technology successful. So we are very proud that to date, it still is Cisco's premier technology in that niche, right? SD-WAN.
Yeah.
They still use the Viptela technology and they continue to grow on top of that. So I'm sure it's a multi-billion-dollar sales of that, solution.
Only,
yeah. So it was
a substantial acquisition as well. It's like 700.
Yeah,
like
it was $610 million. Yeah, it was substantial. Yeah, it was good.
Okay, wow, excellent. Yeah. And then what did you do then? Like, did you take a break?
So I decided that I was old enough that I didn't want to go back to a big company.
Of course, yeah.
So I took
and you've also made an exit, right? So you don't need to go work somewhere.
So the rest of the team went there. I decided that I would start looking at something else. So a few months later, started looking at some ideas and Alkira's idea came up, right? So me and my brother started working on that with another gentleman. And we came up with a solution which we thought was going to be very revolutionary and was going to transform the networking industry. And mind you, we don't look at small solutions. We always go after the big things,
That's what I love about people who are working in Silicon Valley or like building here. You're always thinking global. Yeah.
Think big, Yeah. And so we decided that networking technology was becoming quite stale and cloud was taking off. And Amazon, Microsoft, Google were spending so much money, tens of billions of dollars every year to build their infrastructure. So we said networking hasn't gone through the evolution to the next level, right? It's really that old way of doing things where you deploy things manually and, still continue to expand with a piecemeal approach. Why don't we create a new category of doing business in the networking industry and create something which is completely as a service? That had never happened. So we said, why don't we use the cloud resources to build an abstraction layer in the clouds to offer traditional networking services as well as optimizing the cloud infrastructure itself? So we have an abstraction layer in all three major clouds.
Yeah.
And we offer networking services from there. And you don't have to deploy anything, no software, no hardware. And you can come to our portal and deploy a global service within hours, 2 days, and it used to take months to years,
But don't all the clouds offer this themselves as well now?
Yes. So that's a very interesting question. Clouds offer very, I would say, different types of solutions. They're very raw, right? They're not very well integrated solutions, right? And all clouds do things differently.
Okay.
So customers were struggling with, hey, if I do things in a certain way in AWS and I have to deploy these virtual instances everywhere, and then I have to go to Azure, I do things differently. Yeah. I go to Google Cloud, I do things differently. So all three, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, were doing things differently. There was no standardization in the industry. So we saw an opportunity to create an abstraction layer across all clouds and make them all look the same.
So you just have to do the work once.
From the networking infrastructure perspective. Yeah. So now the customers have to just think about networking and not think about how the clouds work or what I need to do inside the clouds to build my infrastructure, network infrastructure, right? And now they could just deploy their applications or servers and storage and worry about that at the edges, right? Yeah. Everything in the middle we took over. So It's really an interesting concept because we sit in the clouds. Yeah, and customers, use our solution. So they pay us, we pay the cloud providers.
No, that's actually quite an elegant solution if I think about it.
Yeah.
But who were your competitors?
So our biggest competitor was still DIY approach, do it yourself inside the clouds.
Okay, wow.
But it was so tedious and so manual and so involved that customers were struggling, right?
So your customer would still be someone who's, say, deployed on multiple different, say, AWS and Azure.
Right.
Not someone who's just on one.
Yeah. Or using traditional networking services globally, right? Let's say you go to deploy Cisco and work with AT&T's, Verizon's, Singtel, NTT, all these global network service providers. You have Cisco's equipment used by these other service providers to build a network, and they provide services to you. Yeah. Like AT&T and Verizon, right? So here we have one small company which is solving all of that themselves by creating an abstraction layer inside the cloud.
Okay.
And now you have a solution end to end. You don't have to worry about any telcos, deploying any equipment, right?
That's true.
So anything from the edge of the customer, what we call the customer premise, to the edge of the VNets and VPCs inside the cloud, the edge of the cloud, we took over in the middle.
Wow.
And we, utilized the cloud provider resources to build that infrastructure.
So how did you, how did you see the growth come about in this? Like, was it quite fast?
It was not that fast. I would say it was a new concept and people were struggling with, hey, what is this?
Yeah, exactly.
The networking teams were so used to deploying hardware and, the appliances and stitching them together. And one of our customers told us that, hey, early customers, Koch Industries, right? They later became an investor also in our company. They said that we are heavy users of AWS, but our network infrastructure inside AWS is a mess. It's a spaghetti mess because we have all kinds of things interconnected. So they started calling it spaghetti mess, which I used quite a bit in my talks. So we said, wow, I mean, this is a real problem, And so then other customers started thinking about that, and I think after a couple of years, then the AI started taking off. That's where the need for agility to deploy something quickly, to be able to secure, to be able to scale things very, very quickly became quite obvious. And so customers went through this journey called network modernization. So we ended up acquiring many large customers, Fortune 10, Fortune 100 type companies inside the US and even outside in the Middle East, largest banks, stock exchanges across the globe. So it became very successful from that perspective. People really love the solution. They love the team and the solution. So we became, quite happy that something that we worked on is again going to be extremely useful for the customers.
Yeah. Okay, before I come to the category creation question, so then you've recently just decided to, it's been acquired, like Alkira has been acquired by Lumen, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And how did that decision come about?
So, whenever you sell the company, it's a difficult decision always, right? So, and we thought that, to get to the next level of scale, either we raise enormous amount of money or we go and get the backing from a large company.
Yeah.
And we looked at Lumen's infrastructure. It's pretty amazing how many telcos came together to formulate Lumen, right? All these old companies like Level 3, which were the internet companies,
Yeah.
right? CenturyLink and you name it, they all came together, and Lumen comprises of all that infrastructure. So if you really dig deeper, they're probably the largest deployed fiber across the US, millions of miles.
Okay.
Right? And they own amazing amount of infrastructure across the country and outside the country as well. So we thought our virtualization capabilities was a great match for their physical infrastructure, and we could, build something substantial by combining forces. So that was a major, decision point for us, and one thing led to another. We, got acquired.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But even then, like you're thinking about, we spoke about earlier, like IPO versus an acquisition.
Yeah.
And you've on both occasions you've chosen acquisition instead of an IPO.
Yeah.
But so that for you that just makes sense because it's the right partner.
It's a right partner. You can still continue to grow your team and your solution. And what we like to do is create something substantial, which is going to be around for a long time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of acquisitions, right? They go through the acquisition and then they fizzle away over time, right?
Yeah.
So we try to build technologies which are very useful and very, customer usable, so that customers will back it up enough that it will stay for a long, long time to come. So very proud of the teams in both cases, Viptela and Alkira.
So you plan on being part of this
Lumen for the next few years. Yeah.
Oh, wow, excellent.
Yeah.
So take me through your motivation as a founder. Like, is it primarily to build something that people will love and use? Like, is that it? Yeah.
I mean, of course, you want to be financially successful as well, right?
Yeah.
But unless you really love to do something, it kind of becomes difficult to stay, and wake up every day and be excited about it, right? So, so we love to solve new problems, and majority of my friends are retired now, right? So, and, so I continue to work with my team on many different things, right? So I always have a knack for looking at interesting things. So does my brother Atif.
So and you guys always think of, say, new ideas in terms of new categories, which is very interesting because most people just stay within a category, just see like how we can compete or say how we can differentiate. But so you guys like to create a whole new category
within an industry,
within
right?
an industry, of course.
So networking industry, we are experts in that, and we decided that we needed to do something exciting in that industry.
How are you seeing this particular industry grow now? Like, what's the future?
So
in the networking
future
industry?
is very bright because AI is just starting to grow, right? And we started from the LLMs. LLMs put a lot of burden on the data centers.
Yeah.
So servers, storage, connectivity within the data centers for the learning environments. And what people don't realize, all these servers and storage and everything is interconnected through networking devices. So a data center comprises of all the connectivity, all the compute power, the storage power, it all comes together. And data centers are growing at an enormous pace because of the large language models. But now we are getting out of that to the next level where inference is becoming quite important. And the inference needs to happen closer to the end user. That's where you ask a question and you get an answer.
Yeah.
And in certain applications, if they are real-time applications, then you need the inference to happen very close to the end device, whether it's cars or robots or whatever. So you will start to see interesting evolution from, learning to inference to now people are talking about agentic stuff, right? So agents for pretty much everything, people are building agents now.
Yeah.
It's amazing how fast the AI technology is evolving. And I was listening to Satya Nadella last night, and he was saying, in Microsoft, we may see 20 million agents, across the company in the next few years. And so this whole evolution requires the networking infrastructure to evolve with it. And Cisco just did a study that the network traffic grew by 34% last year because of AI. And this year is going to be almost 95 to 100% growth in traffic. That means people will be spending a lot of money in updating their network infrastructure. So AI will have many, we saw the impact from data centers to memory shortage, memory companies took off. People are investing in power companies because data centers require a lot of power. The data center infrastructure companies. So anything around the AI, to build that AI infrastructure out is going to be quite interesting in the foreseeable future. And networking happens to be one of those areas.
Yeah, it is probably one of the most key areas because it connects everything, right?
Yeah, because all the data centers need to be interconnected.
Yeah.
Now your agents are going to be sitting in different environments across clouds, across on-premise locations or on-premise data centers. Everything needs to be brought together, right?
And especially if processing starts happening, say on device, a lot of that. So you would still need
communication.
Yeah.
Between.
So where do you see the next are you seeing new categories now?
Well, I mean, all you have to do is look at how things are going to evolve. What's going to happen as the agents evolve? How are you going to control them? How do you even make sure that they're authentic, they're secure, they meet certain regulatory requirements, the policy requirements for the company. So you will see a lot of different areas being covered in AI as the next part of the evolution. Wow. So anything that you can think of that happens without AI will happen with AI now going forward. So pretty soon we'll have twins for you and I, right? AI twins doing stuff.
I mean, there's a lot of physical AI thing happening as well,
physical
right?
AI things happening,
humanoids,
robots,
etc. Robots.
Humanoids, coming up. You will see a lot of drones, air taxis, all electrical stuff is going to move from the cars into the airplanes also, right? So this is just the beginning. I mean, the way the human race is going to evolve and the technology is going to evolve, it's pretty fascinating. Now, we need to make sure as a human race that we take care of the human beings while evolving all these technologies alongside, building all this cool stuff, because it can have detrimental effect on the humans as well, right? Because it can take away jobs. So you have to make sure that you educate the populations to move to the next level.
No, absolutely. What's your contrarian take on this industry, on your industry? Not just AI, like on just say the networking. Like say, what do you think is something that is obvious to you and not others?
I mean, again, our category creation of as a service networking, where a lot of companies, they talked about as a service, but they were still deploying hardware and whatnot. So the true virtualization, I think we're the first and only one who has done end-to-end from networking perspective, true routing technology. So we see that will continue to evolve because the need for the agility, the security, the scale, global nature of things is required by all major enterprises, right? So large enterprises. So we will continue to build on the fundamentals that we have built so far to, take it to the next level. I think that has not been obvious to many people, and it is starting to become obvious because they're starting to lose deals, right? Fortune 10 company comes to us and says, hey, we want to modernize our network infrastructure. Our stuff sits in co-location facilities in Equinix cages where we have routers and switches, to connect those across many, many different environments inside of the US, outside the US. So now here we come and we say, you can truly virtualize that.
Yeah.
Why don't you take this virtual construct called Cloud Exchange Point and you can bring it up in minutes? Yeah. Right. So rather than deploying stuff and stitching it all together and working for months to bring up your infrastructure, you just come to our portal and spin it up. Yeah. And as long as you have internet connection or connections, we can repurpose those, and you can scale your infrastructure and you can meet the requirements of the newer applications, right? So people are pretty fascinated and excited about that, and a lot of those use cases are coming our way because all these major enterprises, they're looking for network modernization to move away, and they also want to reduce the cost as well, right? So cost is a major factor when you spend money on equipment called CapEx, right? And deploy it, it can be substantial upfront cost. And we are completely changing that to an OpEx model, right? Where you just pay for what you consume. So we've gone from, physically deployable infrastructure or virtual instances deployed manually or, as point products, maybe through some level of automation, to completely as a service. And we changed the networking deployment model from that to complete consumption, right? And that is true change in the networking industry. People never thought that would happen this way. And we were able to do it because the clouds have, again, spent so much money on their infrastructure that we can utilize their capabilities. I'm sorry, I'm geeking out a little bit.
No, but that's that's also helping me learn
it's
about.
Exciting.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's
These conversations are brought to you by QistBazaar. QistBazaar is one of the leading BNPL platforms in Pakistan. QistBazaar essentially आपको provide करता है different products on easy installments, whether you are a small business or whether you're an individual. अगर आपको अपने घर के लिए AC चाहिए, अपने घर के लिए फ्रिज चाहिए, अपने बिजनेस के लिए बाइक्स चाहिए, अपने एम्प्लॉइज के लिए लैपटॉप्स चाहिए, फोन्स चाहिए, ऑफिस के लिए सोलर चाहिए, घर के लिए सोलर चाहिए, QistBazaar has a solution for you. Go on to QistBazaar.pk and find the right solution for yourself.
particularly interesting because what insights that you provided is, from what I understood, is that it completely changes how businesses evolve. Or
businesses evolve. Because
and their need
now,
for capital and how they deploy that capital.
Right. Because IT teams are always under stress, right, from their users to do things quickly. And we saw servers and storage and applications evolve to as a service model, but networking was still sitting a few years behind them. And so we have completely changed that to as a service also, right? So it's exciting that networking is becoming consumption-based now versus, physically deployed or virtually deployed.
So are you now thinking about your next startup?
Not
or
yet.
Are you still happy with it?
I stay involved.
Yeah, okay.
I stay involved, and I love technology. So I do have a tendency of sitting and learning about newer technologies as they're evolving. So maybe investments here and there into startups, but for the foreseeable future, I'll be working at Lumen, and then we'll see what comes next. As we study more. So
okay, so towards the last, say, few couple of questions. I want to learn more about your experience as a founder.
Mm-hmm.
How hard or difficult have you found fundraising aspect to be?
So fundraising initially was difficult in the first company because, again, many people did not understand network infrastructure. It had evolved to a certain level where people thought there was no more growth left.
Okay.
And, companies like Cisco were not exciting anymore. But now here comes AI and they become exciting and their stock value starts to move up quite a bit as well.
Yeah, we've seen NVIDIA and then we've seen now SanDisk.
Even Cisco and,
of course,
Arista and HPE, which acquired Juniper, their stocks are starting to move as well. So, so you're going from place to place and anything that touches AI will start to grow. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, it was about fundraising, sorry.
Fundraising. Yeah. So how
easy or difficult did you find it?
It's difficult at the beginning when you're first time doing it, but don't be discouraged. You will end up finding somebody who understands your idea if the idea is viable.
Yeah.
And if your team is strong. So people fund ideas and teams who can execute on those ideas. So if those two criteria are met, then yes, you will get funding.
Then it becomes easy.
Easy, yeah.
And in terms of team, say what are your best, say, hiring tips for, say, founders who are currently working? Yeah,
so look for the A players. Look for Bs, you'll find Cs later, right? So that's the saying, right? So always look for the best, talent out there, but make sure that you avoid anybody who's not easy to deal with, right? I don't want to use a word in the interview here, but one of our, investors said that, hey, don't hire any A word.
You can use whatever you want.
Assholes, right?
Exactly.
So
what about the brilliant assholes, right? What is your view on that?
They can be disruptive to the company's growth also.
Yeah.
Right. So it depends how much you need that person. But you want to have an environment which is very collaborative, where yes, you have, differences, but you resolve those differences and work in the same direction.
Yeah.
But if somebody becomes too disruptive and they are hindering the progress of the company, then you need to clean that up very, very quickly. And that happens, without fail, that happens in every company. And if you don't take action quick enough, that's one thing I've learned building these companies, then that'll cause problems for you later on. So fix the problems very quickly, and make sure that you're hiring top talent based on merit and nothing else, right? So, and that's what we've done, and our teams, we've been very fortunate to be associated with top talent in the industry, in the networking industry.
Awesome. What did you find was the hardest part of company building? You've built 2 companies now. What has been the hardest part?
The hardest part, it depends. It varies from company to company. Like Viptela, it was different times. And we were gaining much better traction very early on. There was no COVID. It's pre-COVID. The industry was booming. And the challenges came later on when we started selling the product. How much were we going to grow? It wasn't a matter of whether we would grow or not, but how much we would grow, right? Here, it's slightly different at Alkira because it was a brand new concept for customers to understand. And so for them to wrap their brains around, hey, I don't have to deploy anything, manage anything, is this real? So they had a little bit of and then COVID came and things slowed down. Okay. And then after that, AI came and things slowed down because everybody started focusing on data centers and not, so
not the software layer.
It was a different problem that early on we were having a difficult time getting customers, right? So then later on, things changed and everybody wants to do network modernization. So now we were starting to gain a lot of customers. We were growing very fast, right? Over the last few years, probably somewhere between 50 to 80% year over year, So it was quite exciting from that perspective. It still will continue to grow, hopefully even faster after becoming a part of Lumen.
Yeah, because that offers you the physical infrastructure that you can be
physical and the backing and the stability of a large company and and the resources. So it'll be exciting to work with them to conquer the networking industry.
So how easy or difficult is it to have your sibling as your co-founder?
It's not difficult as long as you respect each other. Like any relationship,
it's
right?
like any other co-founder relationship, would you say?
Any other, or friendship or spouses or family, right? It's the same, you have to give each other space and you have to respect each other's boundaries and, have clear definition of your roles and stuff like that, right? As long as that's the case, it's not difficult at all. And we've always been, somehow, me and my younger brother, we've always been together, right? Through school, through jobs, through, squash, through many different things. We've always had many common friends, and hopefully that keeps me young because I have mostly, friends of his age. So.
Wait, how? What's your age difference between you guys?
We are about 7 or 8 years.
Okay,
so,
fine. So he's 8 years younger.
Yeah. So so it works out better. Pakistan में कहते हैं ना कि भाई है छोटा. No, I'm just kidding.
So you can like boss your way around, huh?
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
we have a great friendship, and it works out quite nicely. As a matter of fact, we were supposed to go to lunch today with our friends, and so we hang out together quite a bit.
Okay, now, I mean, of course, if you're building a company together, that's probably like you spend
people
more
always
time.
Ask us that, don't you get tired of each other? No, you don't get tired of your spouses, your family, or
That's true.
You always, as long as you have mutual respect for each other, I think any relationship becomes a great relationship.
Yeah, because it just for co-founder relationship, like whenever I've seen advice around it, it always sounds like marriage advice. Because at most times you end up spending maybe more time with your co-founder than you do with your spouse,
which is true.
Especially the waking hours.
Together.
Exactly. So that's like having a sibling co-founder twice. I think just shows like you have your co-founder set now. Yeah,
our interests have been similar also, right? So that makes it easier.
So okay, so towards the end, like I want to hear more about, say, your. Do you visit Pakistan often? Do you plan on visiting Pakistan often?
Well, our roots are in Pakistan, right? So we love to go there. My daughters love to go there. We love the culture, the environment. the food, it's just amazing. I mean, Pakistan is an amazing place. People just don't understand what they're missing.
That's true.
A lot of times people come outside and they become afraid of going back. Don't be afraid. I mean, there's so much good stuff out there. You feel at home, even though I left 40 years ago, maybe 42 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So, and have spent more time over here, but you still feel like, it's your own place. And last time we went to Islamabad, Lahore, Malam Jabba.
Yeah.
So it was really nice. People are so nice,
That's
and,
true.
Wherever you go, the service quality is much better. It's a very service-oriented society, right?
It is.
People
very
treat you
hospitable.
very hospitable, and they treat you very, very well. So I always like going there. My daughters love to go there. My family loves to go there.
So, have you had a chance to interact with, say, Pakistan, the ecosystem, like the venture or the startup ecosystem in Pakistan, like
so
Pakistani
a
startup
little
founders?
bit through Open and through Park Launch also, right?
Yeah.
And so both these organizations are doing a great job,
course,
right? Bringing people together. So every opportunity I get, I go and try to meet with the people through these organizations or otherwise. Sometimes people just come over and say, "Hey, we want to, discuss this idea." Sure, happy to do that. And so, I mean, somewhat. Okay. And of course, Atif and Atif Awan, many others, that we know in Pakistan, we interact with them.
तो अगर लास्ट क्वेश्चन इन उर्दू तो अगर पाकिस्तान में जो अभी एस्पायरिंग एंटरप्रेन्योर्स या स्टार्टअप फाउंडर्स हैं, अगर उनको कोई आपको जस्ट जनरल से कंपनी बिल्डिंग या एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप की कोई एडवाइस देनी होगी, what would you say to them?
I mean, entrepreneurship, I always encourage kids to do things on their own. अपनी चीज बनाओ, right? किसी के लिए काम करना जो है, that's very different. Those are both good paths, but it's always going to be much more exciting. Although ऊपर नीचे काफी चीजें होंगी,
वो
स्टेबल नहीं होगा, लेकिन आपका ओवरऑल जो है chances of success become better the more time you put in. पहले तो आप हार भी जाएंगे एक दो दफा, लेकिन that's the name of the game, right? कि आपको हारना नहीं है, you struggle. और ये तो हमारे रिलीजन में भी है कि स्ट्रगल करो जब तक आप सक्सेसफुल नहीं होते, तो स्ट्रगल करते रहें, you will become successful. There is no need why you wouldn't be successful if you have the knowledge, given that you spend your time trying to understand things and build your ecosystem, build your network to go interact with people, validate your idea, make sure that you are meeting with your customers. Customers are key. Right? So don't build technology for the sake of technology. Always validate your idea with who's going to be using it, whether it's consumer or enterprise customer base. आप लोगों से मिलें, उनसे पूछें, उनसे feedback लें. The more feedback you get, the earlier, the better. और startup के अंदर, it's nothing about I'm going to do this and talk to you in 2 weeks. No. You interact every day.
Every day, okay.
You make sure that you all are heading in the right direction, and you collaborate, go work. And that's why मैं हमेशा टीम जो है ना अपनी साथ locally यहाँ पे बनाने की कोशिश करता था, क्योंकि interaction with people is so important. आपको आपस में रोज बात करनी पड़ती है regularly, ताकि आप जल्दी काम कर सकें. और अगर आप सोचें ना, अगर मैं आपके साथ मीटिंग कर रहा हूँ, हमने आइडिया डिस्कस किया, आधा तो एक हफ्ते के बाद आप भूल जाते हैं कि क्या बात की थी, राइट? तो उसी टाइम पे आप जाके उसको कॉन्स्टेंटली उस पर काम करते रहें, तो that's very important. But don't be afraid of doing things on your own. Even if you fail, keep trying. You'll come back and be successful.
And in terms of like thinking about न्यू आइडियाज या न्यू कैटेगरीज, कितना लाइक मैंने एक जो चीज देखी है पाकिस्तान में फाउंडर्स में कि वो बहुत बड़ा ग्लोबल नहीं सोचते. वो आपने कैसे सीखी यहाँ पे आके?
ग्लोबल कंपनी के साथ काम करके पहले कुछ आइडिया नहीं था. मेरे फादर तो पायलट थे एयरफोर्स में, ही रिटायर इन 1964, फिर ईरान में काम करते रहे, और उसके बड़े भाई भी मेरे पायलट्स बन गए. तो मैं अकेला था, फादर ने कहा जाके इंजीनियर बन जाओ, मैं उनकी बात सुनता था, इंजीनियर बन गया. सो यू टेक इट फ्रॉम देयर एंड देन यू लर्न थिंग्स ऑन योर ओन. हमें तो ये भी नहीं पता था स्टॉक क्या होता है जब आए थे यहाँ पे. तो उस टाइम पे तो इंटरनेट नहीं होता था, कुछ भी नहीं होता था, राइट? कि कंपनीज किस तरह काम करती हैं, कैसे बनती हैं, राइट? तो आपको सीखना पड़ता है. तो जितना नॉलेज गेन करेंगे उतना आपके सक्सेस के चांसेस बढ़ जाते हैं.
और जितना अपने आपको एक्सपोज करेंगे ऐसे एनवायरनमेंट्स में.
Exactly.
So where you live is very extremely important.
And also surround yourself with people who are successful, and also make friends with people across the industry, whichever industry you're targeting.
Yeah.
Right? So it's okay to reach out to people. Some people will say, no, I don't have time. Other people will interact with you. So learn from them. I think learning is the key. And learning is not only university. Learning is not only, working somewhere, but constantly you can learn nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Everything around you, just go to the proper sources and learn from that. You can learn so much from AI.
Yeah, of course. I know. My prompts are now around build a whole course.
Yeah.
Teach me this in 7 days, where I spend like say 90 minutes a day.
Right.
So that to learn something a bit more.
And
deeply.
be excited about it, right? I mean, I think positivity is key.
Yeah.
Right. In any environment, in any role, job, if you're positive mindset, and you have this mindset of achieving something, that हारेंगे नहीं, कोशिश करते रहेंगे तो जीतना तो है ही eventually, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have examples like athletes also. I mean, Imran Khan was a great athlete. What was the mindset, right? So, और team को positive feedback दें, right? I mean, Muhammad Ali को देख लें, all the sports figures, Michael Jordan, and Roger Federer. तो सारे क्या कहते हैं, जितनी स्कोर किया है उससे ज्यादा प्रैक्टिस की है और हारे हैं, गलत शॉट मारी उससे ज्यादा. जहांगीर खान को देख लें. I mean, amazing players, right? Any successful person, whether it's in technology or sports, you have to work hard, you have to pay your dues, you have to learn, you have to be very knowledgeable about your environment. अगर वो चीजें करेंगे तो आपके chances success के बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ जाते हैं. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even used to study as a child as much up until I came to the US. And then I really said education is easy, So I got a hang of it. And one thing is led to another. And here I am, right? So don't ever be afraid of doing anything or taking a step. Because the first step that you take, after that, you end up learning more.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, Amir. This has been a really enlightening conversation, and I really appreciate that you took the time out.
My pleasure.
And I hope to see you in Pakistan often. And and if any founders want to reach out to you, is your email open? Is your DM open? Are you like
just connect through LinkedIn?
Yeah, okay,
and happy to talk. Any ideas, and if I can help in any way, always happy to do that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you taking time.
Thanks for having me.